Key point 1. Emotional intelligence is the fulcrum upon which our lives gain balance. We humans are essentially emotional creatures. Everything we do in life is driven by emotions. Most people don't realize this because it seems that we are more logical in our daily decisions, but the truth is we're always more emotional than logical. For example, emotions dictate our buying decisions, not logic. We're committed to our intimate partners because of how they make us feel. The way we dress, the careers we pick, the cycle of friends we keep, etc., are all driven by emotions. But it's sad that our emotions haven't been given the kind of consideration they deserve. We've advanced so much in our understanding of science and technology, and we've come up with witty inventions that are making our lives easier. One can categorically say that we are a well-advanced civilization, but when it comes to the emotional and psychological aspects of our lives, we don't seem to have advanced so much. It's true that we've grown in our understanding of the human mind and how emotions and habits work, but outside the academic communities specializing in these disciplines, many people are still in the dark. People run away from psychological and emotional topics because they seem mysterious. We have been programmed to prioritize scientific information and the skills that would earn us money above the understanding of who we are. The average parent is more concerned about their kids scoring high grades in school than they are about the emotional well-being of their children. And the result of this negligence is a rich society that doesn't know anything about emotional intelligence. Topics along these lines aren't taught in school unless you specifically enrolled for that. People don't know how to introspect and communicate, or how to read the moods of others, or even how to relate with patience, charity, and imagination when people around them are suffering. But you'll be different because the chapters that follow are going to teach you the basics of emotional intelligence and help you avoid unnecessary problems. Key point 2. We are all products of our emotional inheritance. Most of what destroys our lives can be linked to emotions that we didn't consciously examine or interpret in time. When toxic emotions linger in our subconscious, they will grow to become even more toxic. For example, envy and rage from past relationships can grow if we let them linger for long. When they begin manifesting in our new relationship, the effect can be disastrous, and the tricky part is that we often can't tell the origins of our emotional outbursts until we take the time to carefully examine our pasts. This brings us to a very important question: how are emotions formed and where do they come from? To begin with, emotions are a part of the mind. They help us react to circumstances happening around us. Emotions can be positive, neutral, or negative. The mistake is to think certain emotions are bad, but even the negative ones aren't bad in themselves because we need them to function effectively as humans. Imagine you never get angry or feel irritated at anything. There is no way you would know when to stay away from destructive situations. No emotion is bad. They are all there to help us live effectively. What makes certain emotions bad is the way we react to them. We come into this world with blank minds and zero toxic emotions, but as kids, we start building bedrock emotional states that will later dictate our adult lives. These emotions are called inherited emotions because we adopted them from the lifestyles of the adults we emulated, usually our caregivers and older siblings. For example, a child who grows up under a competitive parent usually ends up an underachiever. One who grows up in lack tends to be over-materialistic. A dismissive parent makes the child tend towards emotional avoidance as an adult. The list goes on. We all have our own unique emotional inheritances, and these affect us as adults. But it doesn't mean your inherited emotional state has to be your destiny if it isn't doing you any good. You can change an emotional state you don't like, and it first begins with identification. Once the emotional root is identified, you then proceed to study informational products, reading books, listening to podcasts, etc., and attend events that would change your thought system. For example, if you're dealing with alcoholism, there are focused groups dedicated to this particular challenge. There are also people out there who have struggled with the same thing and documented the strategies they used in books and podcasts. When you search for these materials, you'll find them. Key point 3. If you want to know how emotionally healthy you are, just observe your interpersonal relationships. There's nothing that reveals our true nature than our relationship with others, particularly intimate relationships where you're free to be yourself. Studying your relationship with others will reveal your emotional health to you and show you areas of your life that you need to work on. And of course, there's no interpersonal relationship without there first being a relationship with yourself, but you can't solely rely on your relationship with yourself and use it as a metric for measuring your emotional health because it's easy to deceive yourself that you're a good person when you're only looking at it through your personal lens. That being said, here are a few important markers you can use to measure your emotional health. Self-love. How much worth do you place on yourself? When you see people online flaunting the things you lack in life, do you instantly feel intimidated and begin to hate yourself? Or are you comfortable in your own skin and content with what you have? Be brutally honest in your evaluation. Do you have enough self-love to quit an abusive relationship or leave a toxic work environment? Or would you rather stay and die in silence? Candor. This is the extent to which you can accept difficult ideas and uncomfortable facts about yourself or a situation that matters to you. How open are you to accepting dirty or not so appealing facts about you? Have you been owning up to your mistakes and flaws, or do you run from them? Communication. How well do you communicate your hurts and discomforts? Do you patiently and reasonably communicate them, or do you shy away and keep them to yourself, or worse, act them out symbolically and with counterproductive rage? Trust. What do you believe about the world? Do you think you're living in a cruel world that would never let you have the good things you desire? Or do you believe the world is big enough to accommodate all your dreams, no matter how lofty, impossible, and good they seem? The best way to communicate hurt and discomfort is to be patient and reasonable, always assuming the defaulting party didn't act out intentionally. How would you rate yourself based on the points listed above? Nobody scores 100% on all points, but the closer you are to 100%, the more emotionally healthy you are. Key point 4. Affairs begin long before the cheater finds a lover to cheat with. When a partner in a committed relationship has an affair, it hurts the other partner terribly. Affairs are probably the greatest betrayal that can ever befall anyone. When a cheating partner is caught, the tendency is usually to begin investigating where they met their new lover and the event that led to the betrayal. Most people tend to look at the cocktail party or that evening event where the cheat met his or her partner, but research has found countless times that affairs often happen before the cheating partner meets a lover. It's even usually years before the main event. What really happens? Studies have linked affairs to emotional disconnect between partners. Of course, there are exceptions. There are situations that simply result from a sheer lack of self-discipline on the part of the cheat, but these sort of situations are usually the exception, not the norm. The normal pathway is that the cheating partner is first emotionally dissatisfied for a long period before the event where they cheat on their partners. Some of the major reasons responsible for this disconnect include unending busyness, loneliness, public shaming, neglect, ownership, and flirting. Each of these activities have been found to make couples feel lonely and disconnected from their partners, which in turn makes them subconsciously seek to connect emotionally. When someone comes along to offer the kind of acceptance and emotional connection they subconsciously seek, the affair happens. There is no justification for having an affair when you're in a committed relationship, and you could be morally justified for blaming your cheating partner, but you won't be entirely justified if your actions push them to that wall. Intimate relationships are about meeting emotional needs. The underlying reason most people get married or enter into a relationship is to have their emotional needs met and also to meet the emotional needs of their partner. Couples can reduce the risk of affairs destroying their union by not denying their partners the emotional closeness that only they could provide. An affair is not the only problem that results when couples feel emotionally disconnected from their partners. Every other relationship problem you can think of somehow has its root in emotional disconnect. On the surface, it could be parenting, sex, or financial problems or what have you, but when you dig deeper, the real cause is emotional dissatisfaction. Did you know, according to psychotherapist Esther Perel, most men seem obsessed with sex because it is the language they use to express their tender, loving, vulnerable side. It is their language of intimacy. Key point 5. How to overcome the imposter syndrome. Understand that no human is perfect. Have you ever imagined yourself doing something you really love to do, but suddenly begin to feel inadequate and not qualified enough to do it? Maybe you want to be the good parent that you never had, or you want to start up a new business in your street, or pursue a political career, but the imposter syndrome kicks in to stop you from reaching your dreams. The imposter syndrome is a feeling of inadequacy that arises when you set out to do something laudable. You're not alone. It is defeatable. It's plain human psychology to feel inadequate when you're trying to do something you haven't done before. It gets even worse when you don't know any close family members or anyone in your cycle of friends who has done or is doing the same thing. Our natural tendency when venturing into something new is to consider all our weaknesses and see just how inadequate we are compared to the people doing the same thing we want to do. For example, if you plan on starting a business and someday growing it into a large conglomerate, your mind would immediately start playing tricks on you. You'd start seeing how you lack business acumen, finance, and the connection to make it work. You might even start seeing many other personal flaws which you would use to disqualify yourself. Nature seems to be sending us a humbling message. The incidents of our lives are not terribly important. The school of life and emotional education. The imposter syndrome is high in some people and low in others. It all depends on our individual pasts. However, if you notice the feeling of inadequacy is getting in your way, just know that it's normal. Be motivated by the fact that no human is perfect. We're all inadequate in some areas and efficient in others. Yes, that includes all the people you look up to. You don't know simply because you're not involved in their personal lives. Did you know? Wikipedia reports that nearly 70% of individuals will experience signs and symptoms of imposter phenomenon at least once in their life, so you're not abnormal for experiencing it. Key point 6. Sex is an integral part of human relationships. Have you ever wondered why sex is so important? Why do we crave it so much and can do anything to satisfy our sexual urges? The topic of sex remains a mystery to many people. Fewer people know where our sexual desires come from or why they exist than the number of us that know how to engage in sexual activities to please us and our partners. Sex is a very broad topic in itself, one we cannot possibly exhaust in this section, but one thing you must know as a grown adult is that sex is important to your overall well-being. Studies have shown that the more sexually satisfied adults are, the more productive and happy they become. The opposite is also true. Sexual dissatisfaction can weigh us down and cripple our abilities to do anything productive, not to mention the numerous relationship problems that it can bring. Sex is good. It helps increase the bond between you and your partner, and it equally boosts your emotional health. However, we live in a society that isn't sure what sex should look like. Two people should see a relationship as a constant opportunity to improve and be improved, the school of life. In some quarters, sexual expression is encouraged in its full form, while other segments of the society, particularly the religious people, frown at certain bizarre expressions of sexual desire. This has created two sets of people in the world: the ones who are free to express their sexuality, and those who are afraid to even express their sexual fantasies to their partners. What category do you belong to? It doesn't matter. Just understand that sexual expression in relationships is really us expressing our desire to feel loved, appreciated, and received by the other person. Do what you're comfortable with. And if you feel like trying new things out, don't be afraid to tell your partner about it. Conclusion. We are all emotional creatures. As we walk through life, we're constantly reacting to emotions thrown at us by other people or that arise from our response to the things happening around us. Just think about it. When was the last time you saw someone act out when they were angry? Was there anything logical about their response? Probably not. Some people like to think that they are logical, but that's almost never true. We're more emotional than we're logical. The choices we make daily, our choice of life partners, how we react to the events around us are all driven by emotions. Emotions are neutral. They are not bad or good, and we need them to function properly. But our environment and the kind of parents we grew up under can influence the sort of emotional response we give to situations. If you observe that your negative emotional responses supersede the positive ones, then therapy would help. Let's take anger, for example. The emotion is neutral. When someone does something that gets on our nerves or disappoints us, then anger is a healthy response. But some people have been programmed to overreact. In situations like that, the angry person should seek therapy to avoid hurting other people. Anger is just an example. The same principle applies to every other emotion. Once you observe yourself overreacting, you should seek professional help. Try this. If you're in a committed relationship, ask your partner what it is they wish they could change about you. Pay attention to what they say and try to see if that behavior is rooted in an inherited emotion.